Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Culture Nerd Podcast. This week, in honor of the recent release the Ayer Cut movement that went on Twitter and made some waves and even got talked about in the trades, we're actually going to talk about the ongoing rhetoric that James Gunn has the control to release the Ayer Cut and he's choosing not to. So apparently a lot of fans on the interwebs think that James Gunn is just being a gatekeeper and holding hostage a cut of a film that he previously supported. So we're going to talk about this, if it's actually real, if James Gunn could actually release it. And then we're going to talk about a couple of other updates in the world of DC, some other fun things that happened this last week or so. So we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about more DC stuff because apparently that's all y'all want. And here we go. For a higher class of nerd. That's what that last bit says. We always talk about this, but we are the higher class of nerd, apparently. Or at least we demand as such.
We do one for them and one for us. Let's get to the real news because I just want to talk about Mythical Island, the new Pokemon. But we don't get to talk about that yet. First, we need to know about this gatekeeper, James Gunn, keeping all the good content from us.
Yeah, apparently, how dare James Gunn, the studio co-president of DC, not releasing older DC content? How dare he? Absolutely, how dare he?
I would assume this footage is not done, right? It still needs to...
It actually is very done.
Okay, wow, okay.
So... James Gunn in the past on Twitter had said, if Warner Brothers wants to release it, I fully support the releasing of this project.
Okay.
And people are now tweeting that at James Gunn saying, hey, you said you would do it. Why aren't you doing it? And this past week, they had another release the Ayer Cut movement where they tweeted some stuff. Everyone got excited. Everyone started getting pumped up and supporting it. Even David Ayer and his new wife started talking about it and releasing a bunch of behind-the-scenes content of stuff we haven't seen.
I saw that picture of the Joker in an acid bath.
So they showed the Joker and Harley, a new shot of that classic costume scene. They also showed that Joker's back tattoos are literally just like the Frank Miller Joker with the big dragon and all that stuff. So that was cool. He did show some alternate takes on Harley Quinn's shirt. And then even a picture of Katana's tattoos that were not actually shown in the film, because every scene that we saw her in, she was wearing her jacket. But apparently there was some other scenes that were deleted where she doesn't have the jacket on and you could see more of the ink that she has. They also showed some other versions of the coat. She had a property of the Joker coat, a different angle of the torture scene, and then even some more confrontation between Joker post fake almost death, I guess, and then some more shots of the soldiers doing the soldiery thing. Another cool one came out was that in the nightclub scene, Joker's dancers in the background were wearing Batman masks, and these are all you see these in like a blink and you miss it, but he actually shared some images of them more close up because apparently that sequence was longer and you had more of a look. So there was a whole lot of stuff.
They know that Batman paints his eyes. Those ladies clearly had their eyes painted. Do people know that about Batman? Do they talk about him wearing makeup behind his back?
I'm willing to bet that Joker talks all the shit and says, this guy wears eyeliner and tells everybody to do shit because he's been fighting him for like 20 years.
You know, he's been wearing eyeliner for years. Am I crazy? Do you not see this?
Let's tease the bat and let's make fun of his eyes. Okay.
But does he actually have the ability to release this? Is this attached to old Warner Brother contracts? Is there a legal answer, or could he make this thing happen?
He cannot. That's actually the cut and dry short answer truth. James Gunn does not have control over releasing this project.
Who does?
Warner Brothers.
And I would assume that there's also probably money associated with it, and they probably don't want to pay certain people again. Or
there could be a lot of different things. Much like when it was talked about with Zack Snyder, the big issue with releasing Zack Snyder's Justice League was that they had to rebrand it and establish it as a different version of the film, because previous made contracts for like licensing, music, all of that stuff had to be redone because of the new cut. And in terms of just straight cut and dry, the reason why we never got the true director's cut of Sucker Punch was literally that there are actual contracts that have that film in rotation on cable, and they can't violate those contracts until they're all over. So so things like that exist, which prevent things from being released.
How much would it cost to get David Ayer's The Suicide Squad final edition is that $1 million? How much money does it cost to start that process?
Probably not a lot. So I have actually spoken to David Ayer about this. He started following me maybe about a year ago on social media because of a random happenstance, right? Like he started tweeting about how he was working on this new movie that dealt a lot with cryptocurrency and like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, things like that, and just overall blockchain technology. A bunch of people started talking massive shit, saying it's all a scam, it's a pyramid scheme. I actually chimed in on that conversation saying no, because in my current studies, I work at a hospital, but I am going to school to finish my degree in computer sciences and cybersecurity. So I actually said flat out, actually, these people are misinformed. Blockchain and cryptocurrency is a much more complex system. It has nothing to do with these stupid things that we use it for. And I started talking a little bit about it.
100%. The open ledger model, if we enact those technologies, would revolutionize the internet and the way that we can track providence of
pretty much everything.
As well, especially in a world where AI is going to start making everything super difficult to know. But okay, so then he was like, "This is my crypto buddy."
Yeah, so I started talking about this and saying, "Yeah, this is what everyone is like. Sorry, everybody, but you're misinformed. This is actually what this stuff can be used for." And he started chatting with me, saying, "Yeah, that's actually true." Looked at my account, said, "Okay, yeah, I've seen this guy before. I've interacted before." And he started following me, and then we just started chatting. We've talked about End of Watch and how that's my wife's favorite David Ayer film. We talked about The Beekeeper. We've talked about I talked a lot about Fury and how much I adore that movie. We talk about a lot of stuff, but we did also talk about the topic of the DCU, James Gunn, the Ayer Cut, all of this stuff. We actually have a lot of conversations about just this kind of thing. And he has told me flat out that the actual cut of his original film is a war drama. It is not the Poppy movie that we got. It is a war drama. And the studio just didn't really want to do that because tonally it was not the Deadpool Poppy movie that they tried to turn it into in post. The movie itself was made as a linear project where everything is happening in chronological order. And the dossier version of the film that we got now, where you have like this vomit of plot details and backstory, is in like the first 10 minutes, that is actually not his intended project. He said a lot of the
introduces its characters 3 times.
Yeah.
It just keeps telling you that it's Harley Quinn.
Yeah. So he basically was like, there was a lot of stuff that was changed in the post. This is what the actual film was like. And we talked to Death about it. I asked him about certain things. He said, nope, that was them adding it. This was this was that. And we did a lot of awesome conversations, a lot of awesome clarification. We talked a little bit about the minutia of legal details behind why James Gunn actually doesn't have control over this. And it made a lot of sense. And not to betray his trust or just start talking about things that he asked me not to confidently share, I will say flat out, the recent situation with the press behind Joker 2 should give everyone the answer that they need. So when Joker 2 was coming out, a lot of people asked, is this part of Elseworlds? Is this part of this? James Gunn said, no, I actually had no hand in production of anything. This was purely a WB film. Following the release and all the terrible reviews, the director basically was like, yeah, I never actually spoke to James Gunn about any of this. This is a WB movie. They greenlit it. They funded it. This is a WB movie. And that should be exactly what people need to hear on why this project hasn't come out yet. The formation of DC Studios into a separate entity meant that any project that was being made after its inception belongs to them. But any project prior to it legally belongs to the studio that made it.
It sucks that he did not have final cut on that movie. and that this other movie, this completely different movie, we're not going to get. And it'll, live on the infamy of, probably show it to friends and family, but that the mass audience
he has
are not
actually
going to get
shown
to
it
see
to people. He's very much like in the Zack Snyder way, where he actually has a copy of the film on his computer and has shown it to people. People do know it exists. It has a very different vibe, a very different feel overall. There's a romance angle between Harley Quinn and Deadshot.
Do you think that movie is what attracted Margot Robbie to doing the project in the first place?
Undoubtedly, because the movie itself, it probably was far more than what people were expecting it to be. And it's actually a much darker film. It's a much more intense film. It deals with the toxicity behind the relationship of Joker and Harley. Obviously, with all of the pictures of what we have, the property of Joker, there's literally plot points in this film where he is basically telling Harley that you are my property. This is how it works. And then he was getting mad, not because he loved her and wanted to rescue her, but because she was his property, and he was upset that she thought she could do things without him. So it was very much a movie about abuse and toxicity and breaking the chains of what you had become up until that point and choosing to be something different.
Was Sorcerer still the third act villain, or was it the Joker that was the third act villain?
So the Joker shows up at the end of the film, having survived from the crash, and that scene was actually supposed to be Harley's big moment where she stands up to him and says, "No, I don't want to be with you." And then he says, "Whatever," and then like basically has his grenade and his gun and said, "I'm going to leave this place. Don't come after me." And then later breaks into not the hospital. He breaks into the Belle Rev and takes her. And that was meant to be a much more, "Oh my God, Pudding, thank you." It was more like, "Oh my God, you're taking me." It was meant to be a much darker scene of him saying, "You're trapped. You're coming with me now." So it was a very different vibe, and it was supposed to be a very different film. And it's kind of insane that what we got. Oh, that's interesting. It's very insane that what we got was not at all the movie that he intended it to be. And in the end, everyone who is attacking James Gunn and saying, "Why don't you release it?" they're the people who actually are to blame why this film never got released were all fired from WB. They're all gone. And the current people who have that control are actually DeLuca and Abney, the people who are running Warner Brothers Films. They're the ones who have the ability to take something out of the mothballs and make it happen. These are the same people that could take the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever and release that as well. Another film that is literally like 90% done, scoring, everything. It's just really a little polish and just physical release.
Where's their heads at? Do you think that this is something, because at the end of the day, you can't sell DVD. There's no more DVD sales. Like there is, but not really. So these things have to then be streaming, and I feel like they're putting less resources into that.
Yes.
Is there a chance that we see these on Max in 2027?
It's fully possible. I mean, because 2027, I believe, actually is the 30th anniversary for Batman Forever. So that movie could happen then. And the 10th anniversary of Suicide Squad is 2026. So it is fully possible that these films could be releasing closer to their anniversaries. But despite the fact that physical media is the lesser of the things now, they're still making plenty of money off of physical media, especially with the new market shift going away from streaming, because people realize streaming is not a viable option. Netflix actually started cutting out massive budgets, killing projects. Zack Snyder is now making basically end of watch because they won't fund any more Rebel Moon films. So the reality is that everyone is cutting down on their budgets. Even Disney said, "We're not going to do shit anymore like this because it's too expensive." Moana 2 was meant to be a TV show on Disney Plus, and their confidence in that happening resulted in the show to be cut down into film format and released as a film.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's making banger money, but it probably would have not made any of that if they released it as streaming. It would not have attracted people to the platform to go watch it on streaming, because
I feel bad for Disney, because every time I see what the nerds are saying about them online, It's just them spending millions of dollars on movies, and then they chop them up and they do them again. I mean, from Snow White to what's going on with the Captain America movie, it's like, does anybody know what the fuck they're doing over there? I just literally remake Snow White. What the fuck are you doing? And the fact that it's been there's 3 different versions at this point.
Yeah, so the current version that's coming into theaters is the newest version, where they removed the 7 magical friends and turned them into dwarfs again.
Yeah.
But I still don't understand anything about this movie. Is a dumpster fire, and I'm sorry, because like I don't like judging films before they come out, but you're trying to tell me that this gal who has had a worse PR campaign than Brie Larson did with Captain Marvel, who basically shit on every aspect of the source material, and we're now expected to believe that she can carry this movie with all that bad blood. And then also the obvious memes that have come out of it, that people are like, so Gal Gadot is jealous of her beauty, and people are like, how does that make sense? So there's like a lot of people questioning that movie's existence, and they're thinking it's dead on arrival, and I wouldn't disagree with that, because everyone I know who's seen anything about this movie says that looks like trash. I think Disney just needs to realize that. Stop making live action remakes, because the set photos for the Moana live action remake looks ridiculous, because Dwayne Johnson is wearing a big muscle suit, and he looks honestly hilarious. He does not look like Maui should be. He looks like Dwayne Johnson wearing a fat suit. It's so weird looking.
Yeah, and I can't believe they did that Mufasa movie, that they took all those assets. That last Lion King movie is not good. And I don't understand why they thought it was so good.
It made money. It made money because people were expecting greatness, and when they saw it, they're like, this sucks, but they still saw it. I have an issue with the Lion King movie, not because it was poorly made, because it was actually made very well. I didn't agree with some of the decisions to elongate scenes unnecessarily. And to remove the best song in the whole film because they didn't like the Nazi undertones, which was the point of the song.
Right.
Like, they removed it and turned it into like a Bill Shatner spoken word version of that song. And I'm like, this is not okay, guys. Be Prepared needs to be sung, and it needs to be terrifying. That's what the point of the song is. But no. And then they added that random Beyonce song that made no sense near the end of the movie that I'm like, why is this here? He's just running, and she's singing about God and the spirit in the sky, and nothing to do with Lion King.
I know.
So
okay, hard pivot. December 17th, the first mini set for Pokemon Pocket is coming out. The Mythical Islands. Taylor, what do you think about that? What do you think about that Mew EX?
I like how your natural pivot was not to the other DC stuff. I want to talk about Pokemon cards.
I gotta get it in here. I haven't talked about it with you all day yet.
So I heard about it earlier this week. It leaked online. Some of the leaking channels I follow got some pictures. The Mew card looks fantastic.
Great.
I like showing my age a little bit with Pokemon cards, where I like to say that just my Pokemon fandom in general, the best legendary of all the legendaries is Mewtwo, and the best mythical of all the mythicals is Mew, because I am a child like that, and I have a special connection with the first gen of Pokemon, because that's what came out when I was 10. So that is how it should be.
What's the difference between mythical and legendary?
So mythical Pokemon there's a weird classification behind what mythical and legendaries are. Mythicals are the ones that are not supposed to exist, but do.
And legendary are like renowned Pokemon that exist, but there's not a ton of them.
Right. So let me give you a breakdown on the difference, because there's actually a classification between what is mythical and what is legendary.
Because trainers have legendary Pokemon. Do trainers own mythical Pokemon?
Yes and no. So this is what's considered. There's multiple subs. So there's sub-legendary, there's legit legendary, and then there's mythical. There's these 3 classifications are fairly new. Mythical Pokemon include Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, Deoxys, Phione, Manphy, Darkrai, Shaman, Arceus, Vicente, Keldo, Moletta, Genesect, etc. Like all the The ones that are like, you're not supposed to exist, but you do. We've only heard about you in legend. Like that.
So you're talking about either aliens or demons. All of those Pokemon are aliens or demons.
All right. Primary legendary: Mewtwo, Lugia, Ho-Oh, Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza, Zekrom, Kyurem, Zygarde, Yveltal, Salgado, Lunala.
The dogs?
Yeah, the dogs are actually considered part of sub-legendary.
Sub-legendary.
Sub-legendary are the ones that are like, this is a group of legendary that are found with no real restrictions. You're allowed to take them into battle. Like, they basically describe this as when you're doing like the battle towers and stuff, you can take these ones in, but not these ones, and so on. They actually, because legendaries and mythicals are banned, these are the ones that are allowed, so they're considered sub-legendary.
So
the legendary birds, the dogs, the Reggies, the 3 psychic water spirits, Uxie, Mesprit, Asleaf, the 3 legendary, what is it? They call them the Sword Dog Brothers or whatever. Tekrion, Cobalton, Cresselia.
Latios and Latias?
Latios and Latias. Yes, they're sub-legendaries.
Okay.
The Tapus, the island spirits, Tapu Kokus, all of the beasts, like the weird beast Pokemon from like Sun and Moon, like
the giant muscly
mosquito thing, and like stuff like that. And then you've got like Kubfu and that the dudes with the no legs and the cloud. What are they called?
The Jin
Tornadus, Thundurus, Landorus, things like that. Those 4 random Chinese-based spirit Pokemon that were in the new Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, they're not good.
And then that trio and that Ogerpon, the dude with the Kabuki mask, and those 3 dudes that were assholes to him.
Yeah,
those are all sub-legendary.
Who's the new legendary turtle?
He is actually considered a legendary. That's Trapagos.
Okay.
No,
I missed out
Terrapagos.
I didn't look into the DLC, so I'm 4 legendary
so
Pokemon
the DLC
behind.
is actually, I actually like the DLC better than a lot of the main game stuff. DLC was a very good righting some wrong stuff for that game.
Okay.
So I endorse it, play it, enjoy the hell out of it. The biome island that they made is the coolest thing. It's the best way to naturally catch all the starter Pokemon. It's really fun.
Okay. Hard pivot. What else is going on in DC?
So, a new episode of Creature Commandos came out. I'm not going to talk about all the details of what happened in the episode.
It's super fun.
Super fun. A lot of stuff focusing. So we talked about this last week where we said that each episode is going to focus on a character.
Yep.
This was GI Robots episode. Had some really cool stuff. They did introduce the oh my god, I just forgot their names. It's the people that are made all of the metal family. What is they called? It's like, are
they Nazis, and do they need Nazi killing bullets inside of them?
DC, the metal
GI
men?
Robot.
Am I just? Yeah, I love GI Robot. Everything you said. The Metal Men. I was right. I just said the Metal Men. What are they called? The Metal Men. It was a different time when they named these groups. There's a lot of cool stuff like that, but Cersei had her vision of the future, and that vision actually showed some stuff that may be considered a big spoiler, because we understand that James Gunn is making a cohesive universe, and all of the designs and concepts that were put into certain parts of animation will correlate into live action. So this is something that was very interesting because of what I'm about to show you. So obviously, if you haven't watched it yet, go ahead, tune us out. Spoiler alert, I'm going to start showing some shit that you probably may not want to watch until you see it on the episode.
I watched it at lunchtime during my break.
So the scene with the basically the James Gunn nightmare of the future. Obviously, in this shot right here, you can't see who these people are in the background, but
that looks like Starfire.
That is Starfire. That is also Superman in the David Cornsweet outfit. So that is there. You got the dead Peacemaker, missing a leg and shit. And then the other shot with Wonder Woman and a few other characters in the background that are supposed to be noticed. I zoomed and enhanced Hot Girl and Robin.
Enhance. Computer enhance.
Yeah, it's really hard to get a clean shot of this. It was a blink and you miss it. And I even zooming and enhancing, it was impossible to get a cleaner shot. You got Hot Girl in what kind of looks like a different look than the Ted Cord suit that we saw in the Superman stuff. She looks like she's wearing armor.
I like those. I like her wings too.
Yeah. You got what people are assuming is Robin because you got the spiky hair and the yellowish cape. So that could be Robin. And then Wonder Woman in the most classic Wonder Woman outfit you could get. So no 300 style leather skirt. It's straight back to the Wonder Woman one-piece swimsuit.
Yeah.
And then from the other shot, you saw that she has the more classic tiara.
Yeah.
So this could be Wonder Woman's essentially established look when we get her, which I would be fine with. And then you've got Supergirl.
I think they want clean designs on all of these people.
I do too. And then you got Supergirl, who's wearing essentially the classic costume with the knee-high boots, the short skirt, the blue, and the symbol. Like, this is actually perfect.
That's good. Yeah.
Like, so a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to put pants on her. It's going to be woke. She's going to be wearing pants. And then you see this and you're like, that's Supergirl in a skirt. So she's going to be like knee-high. Like, it's going to be the knee-high boots and the skirt and the long-sleeved Supergirl-ness, like the classic costume.
I mean, what? Yeah, we need a world-ending event. What did you think this was going to? I mean, that's why you build to this stuff. This is the promise of where all these breadcrumbs are leading to.
So a lot of people are upset. Obviously, they're like, "Oh, James Gunn is just doing a nightmare, just like Zack Snyder did." But everyone hated Zack Snyder's take, but James is doing the same thing. Blah blah blah. Yes, there is some obvious hypocrisy, and yes, James Gunn and Zack Snyder have a lot of similar ideas because they were friends. They both read comics, and it's a very normal comic book thing to do. The difference is James Gunn is favored by the critics. Zack Snyder is reviled by the critics. So there's obviously a bias there. So Zack never got the actual fair treatment because critics and the internet hated Zack Snyder for breathing. Like he could have cured cancer, and they'd say he didn't do it fast enough. Fuck that guy. You know, like they just didn't like Zack because he was Zack. But James Gunn doesn't have that bias against him, so he's able to do similar things and get praised for it.
I still feel like the ire is coming his way, and I think that I think people are jumping too much like the nightmare timeline.
It's not the nightmare timeline.
It's not that. This is things that could happen if our heroes fail, right? I don't know.
This is done in DC Comics all the time.
All the time.
Vision of the future where something goes wrong. This is another divergent timeline. The difference was that Zack Snyder's nightmare timeline was meant to be, this is going to happen no matter what, and we can try to stop it. We don't stop it the same way, but we do things a little different. So, like, it was very much like Zack Snyder's version was like Future Trunks saga of Dragon Ball Z. Like, something bad happened. I'm here to prevent it. We're going to change it. It's still coming, but we're going to be a little bit more prepared. This is literally Cersei saying, I'm going to make this happen. And if you don't stop me, it's going to happen. And then they stop her, then it doesn't happen. It's not some inevitable part of the future. It's a possibility.
And oh boy, do I like watching Creature Commandos take people down.
It's fun. It's weird. I know a lot of people are like, oh, this isn't working for me, but that's fine. It's not meant to be anything but what it is.
I like it. I guess, listen, I don't think people watch DC animation. I watch a lot of Warner Brothers animation. This is great. I like the animation style. I think it's a fun show. I like the world. I like the dudes in robot suits, her army. We're going to see people in lots of robot suits, I think.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of weird stuff going forward. And I think there's going to be a lot of stuff going forward. But I just will say that this show, it very much was made. It was commissioned. It was produced. It was planned as part of the DCEU. It was meant to be part of the Suicide Squad universe and spin-offs of that project, and it is being slowly retconned into the DCU. But it doesn't mean that this corner has to be viewed by everyone to understand anything, because James Gunn said the DCU is going to be pretty much like the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Not every project has to be consumed for people to go see episodes 7, 8, and 9. You don't have to see the prequels to understand them. Does it help? Sure. Does it need it? Not really. They will tell you what you need to be told when it's necessary.
I'm excited to see the Creature Commandos team up with the Suicide Squad. That when you have these people get together, that seems like a really fun movie as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be surprising people, because this corner of the universe, you got how do I put it? I mean, I'm going to try to like Argus was taken away from Amanda Waller's control. So some events that are going forward, she's going to be ousted and the government's going to be hunting her down.
Right, but they're going to do that in her TV show. That was already bought and paid for.
Yes, and Rick Flag Sr. is now the head of Argus going forward. So certain events will happen in Creature Commandos, Waller, Peacemaker, where she is ousted, he is put in a position of power. So when we see him in the Superman film and he's showing up as a representative of Argus, it will make sense. But you don't need to see all the context to understand that this is the guy that works for the government and he's got these things happening. Okay. You don't need all of that to understand it because they will tell you what you need to know when you need to know it.
Perfect. Don't need to know it until I need to know it.
So I think people are just, yes, it is still part of the stages of grief. People are still upset that Zack Snyder got the bum rap. I am too. Literally, my mouse pad for my computer is the Zack Snyder mouse pad, the charity one that he put on his thing. I have cups, I have things. I literally, when I was looking away from the screen right now, I was opening my Doomsday 2-pack because I really excited and I wanted to. I will say this: the McFarlane Doomsday 2-pack version of Superman with the wired cape for posing.
Cool.
I'm gonna have him fly like Batman. Like it is. I like that they gave us a fabric cape with the wire inlay so you can pose this thing. That's actually way damn cool. Good
Love it. Which
cool.
means you have toys to play with. Which means, is there any other news stories that we need to let everybody know about?
Not that can be saved for next week. Honestly.
Perfect.
A Clayface movie is moving forward. That's something that happened.
And I'm going to let you know that Penguin show was so good that whatever they want to do with Batman's rogue gallery of villains, make them all different, make them fun, make them stand on their own. Don't do what Sony's doing. Yeah. Don't make that stuff. Just do good shows. And I think a Clayface show would be great.
And I'm perfectly fine with them making a Clayface show because they've got Mike Flanagan doing it. And this is the guy that gave us some of the best TV on Netflix. The Haunting of Hill House, that show that he did, absolutely terrifying. One of my absolute all-time favorite horror things of anything, Midnight Mass. If you haven't watched it, it is so damn good. Just from a theological and philosophical angle, everything they do in that show is absolutely amazing with how the abuse of religion, the abuse of power.
Which means that this show is going to be a horror show.
Oh my God. So they got a guy who made Dr. Sleep to do a Clayface show. And this is, I'm looking at this, I'm like, it could be a lot like Darkman, where you have a guy who's going to enact his own justice, but is horrible and monstrous and changes his face when he wants to blend in. Or you're going to have just this guy it's Clayface, and he's going to be creepy as hell, and you're going to have like him turning into little kids and monsters and stuff, and going to be terrifying. So I just want, I have so many things.
I think you do the metahuman one. I think you have a scene where he turns into a
hallway of mannequins, and then the mannequins start chasing a dude, like something like terrifying, where it's like this is Clayface just being Clayface.
Watched Alien Romulus.
Did you finally watch it? Good Lord, did you like it? Are you about to eat crow, Michael? Did you listen to me and did you realize I was right and it was good?
I like it because I like the Prometheus stuff, and they really have handed that in there. I wish they would have done. I wish that the robot turning was done through a different means than the character from the original movie. I wish that could have. I feel like there's other ways to get there, but they did some really creepy stuff, and they killed all those people. Now the sad thing is, we're never going to see where all these movies end with them jetting off into space.
Nope. They actually announced that Fede Alvarez is coming back for a direct sequel, and somehow they're going to continue that story, which makes no damn sense. But my opinion is the Wayland Corporation is going to hunt down that girl and get the info out of her, and it's going to get nuts. So I have theories. I don't know how they continue that story, but they're going to. I also, obviously, another spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
I loved the fact that the Prometheus strain being introduced into a human fetus made a
engineer.
Monstrous engineer. I was like, that is the coolest creepiness that I've ever seen. That scene alone, I was watching that film. I'm like, I'm not scared of the xenomorphs. That thing was fucking terrifying. Walking it like,
and I do
down the
think
hall and being
I
all
think
like,
that's where they want to go. I think they want to now see like all the toys in the 90s. We want to see
the
xenomorph cross bull. Xenomorph, just like take him somewhere and put him in something else.
We're gonna start doing all the hybrids, the dog aliens again.
Okay, no. You're right, Taylor. They're gonna send a robot. Are they gonna send a Michael Fassbender robot? They're gonna send.
I just want them to bookend that story, because you ended the lackluster Alien sequel, Alien Covenant, with a hardcore cliffhanger, and I want that resolution. I want to know what the hell David did after he kidnapped and replaced them. Like, I want to know.
Wayland sends a robot to go investigate them. Does the Wayland Corporation? Why is the xenomorph here? Because it's always like no.
They actually talked about that. The whole point of the xenomorph, why they kept studying this thing and bringing it into foreplay, was because the Wayland Corporation is heavily investing in terraforming, and all these planets are so bad at being terraformed, they found it cheaper and easier to make humans stronger than to make planets more suitable for them. So they want the xenomorph so they can reverse engineer what can make humans more resilient, so that they can stop wasting money on terraforming planets.
Wild, just classic dystopian future.
Like, and now we have the FX show Alien Earth that's going to explore literally that in great detail, of them trying to recreate the xenomorphs to make humans better, and then somehow a xenomorph is on Earth and all that stuff.
Spooky.
But I am super excited for it, and I'm not. We grew up in the heyday of the 90s where they had those alien toys, and I'm glad it's coming back.
It's wild how full circle this movie had. A lot of beats that felt like Alien Resurrection.
Sorry, I'm getting a phone call.
Which means it's time to go to the post show, everybody.
Take it home, Michael.
Thank you so much to all of our wonderful patrons. Thank you for keeping the show afloat. If you would like to be a patron, head on to patreon.com/theculturednerd. If you have those handy dandy cell phones ready, or if you're watching this online, please like, comment, subscribe, all of those wonderful things. Feed the algorithm. Let them know that we are here. Question of the week, Taylor. What are we asking about the DC universe?
Do you want the DC universe, the DCU, to move forward with the classic costumes, or do you prefer the reinvented look that we saw a lot of the Snyderverse? I would like to know if people want those classic costumes, because we saw Wonder Woman in presumably the classic costume, Starfire in a pretty classic costume. Do you guys want those costumes, or do you want something else?
He's Taylor Murphy. I'm Michael Chantel. Drink water, eat food, take care of yourselves, and we'll see all you kids and cats next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you for coming.